And welcome to the Infernal Brotherhood of the Scruffy Looking Nerf Herders. This is a live streaming video podcast by Star Wars fans for Star Wars fans, and today we're going to continue our episodic review of Star Wars Ahsoka with Part 3, Time to Fly.
This is Time to Fly. What did you think of this episode?
It was definitely an episode. Still not feeling it.
Yeah, I'm not either. Actually, this one made me not feel it more than the others even.
Really?
Yeah, I thought this was the most egregious because they're clearly setting it up that she has no Force ability, and yet Ahsoka insists on training her to be a Jedi no matter what.
Which, Ahsoka's not even a fucking Jedi.
All right.
Like, that's the shit that keeps getting me. And having Hu Yang there, like, oh, well, you're a blah, blah, blah Jedi. It's like, dude, she's not a Jedi, period. She left the fucking Order. I don't remember her ever going back to the Order that was disbanded because it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So I'm just having a hard time with it because of that. And it's just like Sabine is acting like a fucking child. And it doesn't make any sense. It's not a part of her character.
That's my biggest problem, is that Sabine is a fully formed character when we last left her. She's not a child. No. She helped restore fucking Mandalore and then saw Maul and the Empire take it down. Mm-hmm. She, as far as we know, should be latching on to whatever is left of the Mandalorian culture because that is her literal identity that we're aware of. And instead, she's like trying to be this Padawan, which she has no affinity for at all, according to literally everyone in the show, and yet that's the only thing that seems to be of any importance at all in this show.
Well, then one bitch fit I got with that is the whole training sequence where she's got the blast shield on fighting Ahsoka. Again, this is one of those things where, of course, I don't know what new canon is. I don't even frankly think they know what new canon is. But Mandalorians in Legends were taught to fight without their fucking eyes. Like, you were taught to fight without your senses because guess what? Middle of a fucking battle, you might lose one of them and you are not dead yet. You still need to fucking kill some motherfuckers. So the fact that she's using a melee weapon without sight is just, it's egregious that she fucking sucks so bad.
Yeah,
especially because she was once the fucking Mandalore.
Yeah. Yeah. She is a trained, accomplished warrior.
Yeah.
Like, this is what I don't understand. It's like they're regressing her character so that they can insist on the fact that she's only good if she can be a Jedi. And what kind of a fucking message is that? Like, you should be good because you are who you are, not who you should be through someone else's perspective. It's like this new Star Wars is, if you're not Force sensitive, it doesn't matter. You still have to be a Jedi or else you're not important at all.
Yeah, it's just insane. And the fact that it's like, oh, well, you're not Force sensitive, but you can be a Jedi if you try really hard.
Yeah.
No, that was never the fucking thing. Yes, everybody's made up of midi-chlorians because that's literally the essence of existence. Everything is midi-chlorians. But just because something has some doesn't mean it can be a fucking Jedi. I mean, new Star Wars canon, of course, is an exception because I was going to say it's not like a rock can be a Jedi. But I'm pretty fucking sure at this point a rock could be a Jedi, considering a rock is a very comedic pilot and shit, I guess. So I just...
If the rock identified as female, and we know the female is the Force, it could be Force sensitive, hence a Jedi.
Okay, you know what? I take back what I said about Geode.
Equals Force sensitive. All right, so this was written by Steph Green, directed by Dave Filoni, and is premiered August 29th. Do you want to walk through this?
Yeah, so I mean, it starts with the whole training sequence, which is cool.
Yeah,
admittedly, again, I'm going to repeat myself. I swear this is probably going to be the one constant I say throughout this season, series, whatever the fuck it's going to be, is if you don't think about it, it's really cool. Like watching Sabine essentially train with Hu Yang, like that was cool. That looks fucking fun. I that's awesome. Whatever. But yeah, so she's sitting there training with Hu Yang, does not terrible, but nowhere near as good as she should. Ahsoka comes in and is like, oh, you fucking suck. Let's take away your eyesight because then you're going to be able to use the Force. And then she fails miserably fighting Sabine or Ahsoka.
Yeah.
God, it's just so frustrating. Like it's so unnecessary. Like we've had these moments with Force users getting their asses kicked.
Yeah.
Why is she going to be better?
And I think that's another part that's really bothering me, is that there's nothing new that we're experiencing. And the thing is everything doesn't have to be new and flashy. I get we're gonna have to run through the same old ground from time to time, but these are the exact same story beats that we've already had with beloved fucking characters. So why the hell are we reliving them with new characters that we literally already saw in animated form? She did this with Kanan Jarrus. Like, this is not new.
With a goddamn lightsaber.
Yeah, with the fucking dark saber, for fuck's sake. Like, this is not new, except she was awesome then, and she's just regressed to suck now.
Yeah.
So what, is Kanan garbage Jedi teacher compared to Ahsoka because Ahsoka's the fucking title character?
I guess.
I just don't understand. It makes no sense. And I see all these stupid fucking idiot Star Wars fans online who are just like, championing the fist pumping this show, saying it's so great, we're finally seeing live action, but we're not seeing anything that we haven't already seen better.
Yeah, that's the big thing, is everything we've seen thus far has been better in Rebels.
Yeah,
it's so frustrating.
Me. Or 40 plus years ago in the original fucking trilogy.
Yeah, right.
I'm getting fed up with it. I'm tired. I'm tired of trying to find things that I like about a show that is clearly just not for me. It's just
honestly,
not for
me. Man, with these past 3 episodes, I'm getting almost the feeling that I had when we did our official review of The Last Jedi that pretty much shut down this show for a few years. Like,
it really did.
And the thing is, I didn't like it, but it didn't destroy it for me.
Yeah.
This is getting there, and it's so fucking frustrating.
Well, it's especially frustrating when you compare and contrast it to, like, Andor, for example, which is arguably the best thing to come out of Disney, Lucasfilm, Star Wars.
Yeah, 100%.
And it still holds up, and it's still brilliant and amazing. And it's like, compared to that, everything else has been a shadow or worse. Like, I don't understand why you can't just do that again. I think I know why. It's because Dave Filoni, who cut his teeth in animation, doesn't understand live action enough. And Jon Favreau, who pioneered this new form of making 3D entertainment with the volume through Jungle Book, has shit the bed in every other version of use of the volume since. He just hit a gold mine once, and then it's just sort of trickled down to shit since then. And he clearly knows how to make live action, but he's relying too much on 3D technology, which was George Lucas's down fucking fall.
Yep. History. We're always failed to repeat it. And that's the disappointing part.
So Pika fan, personally liked the episode, just wish it was longer. It got more interesting in the last 5 minutes.
It did. Like, that's the thing. Towards the end, that was exciting. But
okay, so was it exciting because of the story, or was it exciting because of the visuals?
No, it just fucking looked cool. Like,
it's
a goddamn dogfight. It does. I don't give a fuck. And the thing is, and I know we've talked about it in other episodes, or like other episodes that we've reviewed. Give me a half hour of dogfights, no story. I don't give a fuck. I'm going to be laughing and giggling like an idiot the whole time and enjoying myself.
Yeah.
And that's fine. And I guess part of what bothers me so much with, again, this episode, which I said last episode, is they're giving us things that could have all been set up in one, like the introductory episode, to give us the story.
Right.
Because, next thing we see, Hera talking to the senators, led by Mon Mothma, discussing what happened on Corellia, and they're all just so blasé about it, like, oh, it doesn't matter. Of course there's going to be leftover remnants. It's like, cool, man. You just won a goddamn war. You need to keep those people down and get rid of them. Otherwise, they're going to rise back up. And then, of course, somebody who's literally lived this war since basically as long as she can remember, she's like, hey, guys, I'm just trying to do what I can to keep this shit from happening. You remember appointed general by you fuckers to take care of us? Oh, you're not going to give me resources because, I'm worried about a war? Yeah, God, it's just fucking idiots.
Shit like that it's really starting to drive me crazy. The whole New Republic dichotomy in this version compared to Legends. The whole idea that there are these Imperial embedded soldiers that are like, almost like they're Manchurian candidates, like brainwashed until a trigger word, and then all of a sudden they come out for the Empire. Does no one remember that the Empire was horrible for everyone? Even people that served in the Empire. And so they're pretending as if the Empire was glorious for so many people that they're willing to, like, literally remain loyal when it doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
That was not a fucking thing.
No.
There were warlord remnants, but that was it. Not embedded fucking new... The Empire was horrible for everyone. There would be no fucking insurgency like that.
Well, and the thing is, like, when it came to the Imperial remnants, like, those existed up until... well, I mean, we don't know when it ended because of the fact of, Disney buying Star Wars. But, 40, 50 years after the fall of the fucking Empire, they were still around. They were their own thing. They were their own sovereign nation. And when they first split out from the New Republic, the only people that were there were the people that were in the fucking trenches. You had your stormtroopers, you had officers, you had your fucking admirals, grand admirals, all that. Like, that was all that made up the Imperial remnant. And they were only in it because what's going to happen if they fucking go to the New Republic? They're all going to prison for fucking war crimes. So that's why they were there. And, of course it branches out as time goes on because that's what happens with society. But still, at its core, they didn't fucking like it. It's just they had no other option.
Yeah. It just drives me crazy that there's this idea of all of these civilians are still loyal to the Empire, as if they had some great life under the Empire, and the idea of freedom that came under the New Republic is some sort of detestable idea that they're still loyal to fascism. Like, in our world, there are fascists, and they are loyal to that ideal. But there's no universe where an institution that is taking over a government is just going to take all of those former employees and just change their clothes and say, keep doing the job you've been doing. We know you're loyal to them, but...
I mean, we kind of did that with World War II. We took all the Nazi scientists and we're like, no!
See, and I think that's different because those are very select few individuals.
Okay, yes.
This is an entire group of people that is like operating all throughout the New Republic, ostensibly.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like it's a little bit different. Plus, those scientists wanted to come over. It's not like we grabbed them and chained them and forced them to work and we know you're fascists and we know you'll turn into fascism.
It was also, hey guys, do you want to come work for us or do you want us to murder you?
Yeah.
I mean, that's literally...
But that's not even the offer that was given to these guys. Like, it was literally just, hey, we're the new power, so come on over. And they're like, okay. I just don't buy it. I don't buy it at all.
The other problem that I have with it is what this show and the other shows leading up to Thrawn's return is setting up, that there's nothing. The Empire doesn't exist. There's a scatter of warlords out at the fringes of the galaxy. They're not connected or anything, really. I mean, sure, like the warlords talk amongst each other, but that's it. There's not like this, it's not like the rebellion. Because we think of the rebellion, yes, there were different factions of the rebellion, but I mean, aside from the extremists like Saw Gerrera and his group, for the most part, all of them fucking worked with each other in one way or the other. These guys don't. They're separate. And the idea of just random civvies being like, the Empire. It's like, there's no unity. There's no Empire. Who the fuck are you working under? Yeah. That's the fear that they're bringing up with Thrawn coming back, is he's what's going to unite the Empire and make it a solid force versus remnants. So it's, the logic and this show don't go together too well.
Yeah, it also just drives me crazy is that you're so fresh out of the war with the Empire, and none of these senators are like, well, all of the warlords are taken care of, so our citizens don't want war. Yeah, that's what she's trying to do. Prevent war. I don't understand why you don't get that. And then if you don't get it, that means you're in on it. That means you're part of the fucking problem. And in the fledgling New Republic, you should root that shit out immediately.
And I did like that aspect when Hera called him out for being a fucking pussy and a fence rider. So that was pretty funny. But it's just... It's so hard because the thing is, we already understand the mindset of the government. We saw the sequel trilogy. So we already saw the rise and the fall of the New Republic and what caused their fall. We don't need that in this show. That's years down the road that nobody fucking gives a shit about. Like, let's live in the here and now.
Yeah. And I know he's leading up to his movie, and so he's got to drop all this shit early so that we understand, because we're a bunch of idiots and we would never be able to understand it otherwise. But I don't know. It's so ham-fisted, the whole thing. It seems so clearly obvious. He's like, hey, I'm telling you guys, foreshadowing. And we're like, yeah, we fucking get it. Be a little subtle, asshat. Like,
okay, I now officially hate this episode. So apparently that was Kaz's dad. So
who's fucking Kaz?
From Resistance, the kid you don't remember, which is great.
Oh, get the fuck out of here! No.
That's what Pika fans.
I thought he blew up. He blew up in a planet attack or something, right?
Yeah, but Resistance was right before.
Right, that's years later.
The Rise of Skywalker, or the
right,
Last Jet, whatever the fucking second
one
was.
You're right. That sucks. That sucks.
They just really want us to hate that character, I guess.
There's like, hey, we're tying in every piece of shit. Okay, good on you, man.
Just give me a fucking live action episode
hilarious.
or a live action version of The Signal from Sector 6.
Yeah.
And I'll just shut the fuck up the rest of the series.
100%. So, Mon Mothma did her best to argue the point of reason, like obvious rational reason. And apparently none of the senators agreed. And so Hera was like, I can't do anything, sorry. I've never liked the idea that you can communicate with people in a spaceship that is going hyperspace. That doesn't
make sense.
Any sense
especially because you can't track them.
Yeah.
What is tracking but a fucking signal?
Yeah. How are you possibly beaming something in that fast? Sound does not move that fast. Visual imagery does not move that fast. It just doesn't make sense. I don't know. I mean, they're literally going faster than light.
Yeah.
So light doesn't catch up. That's the fucking point, that it's faster than... Anyway. All right. So science has never been a part of the fantasy that is Star Wars. But this took another level of, like, science not being a part. Because now gravity's not even a part. And it's never really been a part of it if you count the sequel trilogy. And I bitched about this last episode.
You know what? I still will defend the gravity issue with the opening of The Last Jedi. Because it makes sense. It does make sense.
Wait, which part? What are you talking about?
Are we talking about the Dreadnought being bombed?
Oh, I was talking about fucking flying Cirque du Soleil Ahsoka, but...
Oh, well, you're talking about the movie, so whatever.
Right. I just brought that up because the idea of an object set in motion like a blaster will stay in motion until something stops it. And in that movie, they fell like short.
That was so stupid.
They literally arced downward, which makes zero sense at all.
Yeah, especially because they're not in a planetary well or gravity well at all.
Yeah, I mean, space has gravity, but it requires other things to, create said gravity.
Yeah.
So it's always sort of driven me insane. But, okay, so we get to the point where Ahsoka and Sabine are chasing over to the planet that they tracked the hyperdrive to. They come out of hyperspace early because that's the Jedi protocol, which, makes perfect sense to me. Why would you pop out of hyperspace in the middle of a fucking planet like Han Solo or something?
Yeah.
And the fact that he said that was the stupidest thing, and no one would ever agree for him to do it if he told anyone he was going to do it, but then everyone now wants to do it? Okay. And so, ultimately... Okay.
You talk. I'm going to read what Chris has to say.
Okay. Is it one of his theories?
It is one of his theories.
Shit on it.
Yeah.
All right, so it's just them coming out, and then all of a sudden they get, caught up on radar, and they're chased down, which makes sense, which I really liked. Again, we both enjoy our space battles and starship fights. It's great. I thought the ships looked great. I thought the battle itself was great. When they flew through the Eye of Sion, the Eye of Sion was blasting at them, and they actually lost their shield, and they were damaged and spun off. I thought that was all great until Ahsoka went out on the wing and started literally doing flips in space as if there was some sort of gravity to pull her back down to the ship.
Yeah, well, I mean,
and then they faked that whole thing out at the very end when she was floating off into space. Like, how come it worked earlier, but it didn't work later? It's inconsistent. It doesn't make any sense.
It's the Force, Adam.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So, okay, there are two things. Well, three things, because Chris, shut the fuck up. I will cut the fucking tattoo off the back of my head if that's the case. Period. And never ever watch anything Star Wars ever again. Yeah, read his shit. So one, it would make sense. She can do that with the Force. It's a cop out, but it's plausible. And two, there is a gravitational force because of the fact that they're not through the ship. So theoretically, if she's close enough, yes, she could potentially do a flip and be pulled back down to the ship.
Oh, artificial gravity within the ship is different than gravity from without.
I'm also saying that she might be within the I'm trying to make it make sense.
All right.
And it's mental gymnastics, but I'm trying because the thing is, I fucking love Star Wars. I don't want to hate it. Yeah. And it's so hard with these because it's like I fucking hate it.
Right. I do like what Clinton's saying here, that in the Clone Wars when Plo Koon went out there, he wasn't flipping around though. Like that. Mm-hmm. I guess the only part that really bothers me is the gymnastics outside in open space. Mm-hmm. If she had grav boots on, she wouldn't have been able to be flipping, and she would have just stayed there. If she didn't have grav boots on, she wouldn't have been able to get back onto the ship itself. And then the fact that she was able to stay on the ship earlier and then flew off of it later. Like, it's not even consistent in its own presentation of the rules.
I mean, that honestly, that's why I'm leaning more towards its Force stuff, because that is all stuff that is plausible with the Force and shit we've seen with the Force, like fucking stuff that Darth Vader's done in the past, like with the Dark Lord of the Sith book, except that was way cooler.
I don't remember him doing
where he was like flying around in space, like jumping off the TIE fighters and all that shit, being all crazy and stuff.
Right. So
like it again,
I do think it's different. Like jumping from TIE fighter to fighter, that's like from point A to point B, not going from point A back to point A. Like there's just something you can't do. Once you project off something, you can't go back without. That's why astronauts have to have like little air blast force things in their fucking.
Astronauts also can't reach out through the Force and grab onto a solid object and propel themselves toward it.
This is fantasy. I need to.
So that's again, that's the thing. Like I'm trying to remind myself that all the shit she did is plausible with the Force.
Yeah, we saw Mary Poppins. So the first time she just pulled the ship back to her. And so, I mean, if Leia can do it, why not Ahsoka? Because, I don't know. All right, so Ahsoka going to the world between worlds and trying to change young Anakin actually makes logical sense to me. Like, that was her master. Why would she not try to save him? Except she's already left the world between worlds. Mm-hmm. Like, how is she going to get back? We don't even know how she left. Did she leave, like, the storm door open? Did she like pry it open?
Well, I thought that was the theory that we were playing with right now. That either her or Palpatine left the door open. They didn't latch it all the way. It didn't click fully.
Yeah. You got to be really gentle so the lock doesn't snap. Hayden Christensen is scheduled to appear in the series in the galaxy travel and will somehow cause the world between worlds to occur. Yeah, I don't know about that. I know they're going to do flashbacks for training sequences. I think she's going to have to face off against Skull, and so he clearly knew Anakin and knew Anakin turned into Vader, and so he's going to say something, and she's going to have some flashback of like, oh yes, my master, and then we're going to get to see them in Clone Wars and her training, and that's how she's going to ultimately be able to defeat Skull in like the final episode of this season or something like that. Like that's what I think is going to happen. I do not see her going back and like saving him and changing the universe or anything like that. They're not going to retcon like that.
Yeah, it's the problem is to do that before, like if this was the end of the series, like this is the end of the saga, like Star Wars is done, I could see it. It would make sense because like if any of you have ever read like the Dark Tower series, that's how the book ends.
Oh, really?
Like, or the series ends and it starts anew. Like it makes perfect fucking sense. I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it because it's so fucking beautiful.
Wow.
But to have Ahsoka do that right now and change the course of everything negates everything that's going to come out after this point. So I really don't think that would happen. At least I hope that wouldn't happen.
Yeah. Well, also, like on the other side of it, we have to think of like who are the impactful characters on this entire universe, right? In the whole Star Wars saga, not the Skywalker saga, the Star Wars saga.
Yeah.
And you had the mother, the father, and the children. You had the brother and sister, and they sort of split off. Anakin was pulled into that whole thing, and he was like, "You're the chosen one. You can, take my place. You can lead everything." And he sort of pushes them off. We learn about the wills through Yoda's experience and how to transport himself into all Force energy and sort of transcend death. I mean, these are the main impactful events that are galaxy-wide, mind-blowing shit. And now we have Filoni's character, who we're just supposed to assume is as badass as all of them because he's the one writing it. And she gets to then completely change all of their trajectories because it's a story he wants to tell. I just have a real problem with that.
Yeah, agreed.
From Snips to Sky Guy to completely saving Sky Guy. So what? Now Luke's trajectory means nothing? Because she's going to supersede all of that? She's just going to take Luke's place in everything? She's already going to take his place in Heir to the Empire. So I just don't like the idea of Ahsoka superseding everything that everyone came before her simply because she's the modern popular character who never fucking shows any emotion, is just always like,
hey, you know what? We got to smirk this episode.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take that as a win.
My wife did that. She's like, hey, she smiled. I was like, mother.
Yeah, it's like mark it down. So Pika fan, I'm kind of on the fence with her being overused because the thing is, I do like the character. I love Rosario Dawson. My problem is not overuse, but how they're using her.
Yeah.
Like I feel like if it's just to be the new Luke or Anakin, that's the wrong way to do it. Because prior to this episode or this season or series, whatever, I don't know. I don't know if they're doing a second season of this. Just whatever. I'm going to say series.
Yeah.
Every aspect of her in every other series has been great. Not overused at all. I think it's perfect. She's essentially the glue that binds all this together until Thrawn's return. So on that end, I'm okay with it. It's just how they continue with the character. That's the part that I'm scared for.
It also drives me crazy that she's using Jedi droids, Jedi vernacular, Jedi training, and she rejects Jedi teachings.
Mm-hmm.
Like you don't get both. You're either a Jedi or an aspiring Jedi, or you're not. But you can't just say, I'm not a Jedi, and then pretend that you are when you're training someone who clearly is not supposed to be a Jedi because she's an accomplished Mandalorian. And then just for the show's sake of communicating to fucking idiot viewers, like, oh, she's Force sensitive. She has lightsaber. She must be a Jedi. Well, she's not technically, but she's using all the Jedi tropes, so... No, she's not a fucking Jedi. Why is she relying on Jedi tactics? And to say that she comes from a long line of unconventional Jedi, none of them left the Order. Only Anakin after he fucking turned to the dark side.
He didn't really leave the Order per se. He just destroyed it.
That's true.
And when he died, he was a Jedi again.
Yeah, he went right back. Right back. So it like... They're like, no, she's a rebel, but she's just like everyone else, but she's completely special and different, but she follows all the same teachings, but she's not a Jedi, but she uses Jedi teachings. Like, what the fuck is it? You don't get both fucking things. I care way too much about this. I should not give a fuck.
And that's the hard part. That is the part that I feel like people don't seem to understand. We bitch because we care. But yeah, Pika fan, I agree with the three episodes. Like, it could have just been any random Torgruden and it would have been cool. But the fact that it had to be Ahsoka was just kind of like, why? We don't need that. Like, it was a little bit more than we needed. Book of Boba Fett, I could take it or leave it. But yeah, the Tales of the Jedi, one episode would have been enough.
I didn't mind the idea that she was going to be a gray Jedi. Sort of like between light and dark and stuff, because that's what the original Jedi were. They used both because that was the full scope of mortal emotional experience.
Yeah.
And you had to use both. You had to be in balance of both in order to be an effective Jedi. That altered and shifted throughout the legends, and that's why it fractured, and that's why they're constantly warring. That's why neither light nor dark side could ever get a hold on the galaxy because they were never in balance. And so I like the idea that maybe she would be a gray, but they just changed that. Now she is literally a Jedi. She is acting as if and speaking as if she is a Jedi. And so she can't be a gray if she's claiming to be a Jedi and teaching Jedi ways.
And it doesn't make sense because she's not a fucking Jedi.
All right, so all of that said, they have a pretty cool little space fight. She ends up defending the ship, and so it can sort of get basically strong enough to get the engines going to get planet side. They fly through this, what do they call it? A pod of Purrgil, and I thought the Purrgil looked great.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, man. I've been so scared to see them live action. That was fucking awesome.
Yeah,
I don't understand it.
Yeah,
but I don't care.
Yeah.
That's the one aspect of this show so far that I will just stick with. Doesn't need to make sense. I
thought it looked good, and I do like the idea that there are creatures who are just capable of. First of all, we have extremophile creatures on our planet. They exist in temperatures beneath the sea with pressure that we could never withstand, that exist in temperatures that we could never stand. It's so hot next to volcanic stuff. So
literally living in volcanoes. Yeah.
I mean, the idea of life existing in places that other mortal forms cannot is not new. It's a thing.
No, not at all.
And so I like the idea that there is this sentient species that, you know, maybe helped bring mortals' awareness to the idea of space travel, hyperspace, traveling to different galaxies and stuff. I don't mind that at all. And I think they look kind of cool, and I just buy it. For whatever stupid reason, I buy it.
Yeah, and I agree, Pika fan. Fucking anything Lovecraftian, I'm like, oh God, give me.
Oh yeah, you know, I never really thought of it that way before, but
I never saw it until this episode, honestly. Like, and it's so funny too because it makes perfect sense. Like seeing them in Rebels and shit, it's like, yeah, they're massive fucking beasts. Like they're bigger than like a Mon Cal cruiser.
Yeah.
But just like majestic and shit. And this one, it definitely gave that vibe.
Yeah, I dug it. And, you know, them getting down planet side and sort of, you know, waiting out until the spaceships and Hati and Morak leave. I get it. And they know that she's planet side. And so they have Skull dispatch a bunch of droids to go hunt them down. That's the only part that I thought, this is even too far. Because they already have sent HK droids against them. And Ahsoka's defeated every single one. So why would you then send more?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense, especially because like 4 HK droids, that should kill a Jedi. And you know, 5,
they were badass.
Like 4 or 6, like that's enough to take out a Jedi. And
I mean, that was the whole point of HKs is that they could. It's basically like Mandalorians. You know, they use basic technology that's catered to fighting Force-sensitive people, so they can actually have the upper hand on them.
Yeah.
But we've already seen her whip their ass over and over and over again. So, like, why? Why doesn't Skull just say, you know what, Hati, let's go. You and me, we're going to take these people out. Like, period. Why are they pussyfooting around? I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't either.
I don't know. Anyway, that was the end of the episode where we're just left to, you know, wait for them to sort of have the HKs come up, and no one's going to die. Only droids. There's not going to be any consequences. We're not going to learn anything new. Did you have a favorite moment of this episode?
Yeah, the fucking Purrgils, dude.
It was a cool scene.
That was really dope.
It gave me heavy Solo vibes, actually.
Yeah, definitely. It really did. I dug it. I mean that, and yeah, the dog fight. Like that's again, I've said it before. I'll say it again. Like I don't give a fuck. Just give me that. No story, just that, and I'll be happy.
Yeah, I thought that was very cool. And I really don't mind the idea of Jedi being out in space as long as there's some reason why they can stay on something. That's really all there is. Like, and I don't understand why she doesn't throw her lightsabers. That seems like the perfect solution if you're fighting in space. Just throw your lightsaber, call it back through the Force. You don't have to move.
Right. Well, especially in space, like that makes way more sense because it's a lot less effort to fucking chuck a lightsaber in the vacuum of space versus on planet.
Yeah.
And yeah, like we've seen those go straight through a fucking spaceship before. So
yeah, and then there's a scene where she was the wing of her ship picked her up and she ran down, and then Hati was like literally hitting the ship with her blaster. There's no shield. She's literally bombarding the ship and nothing happens. That ship would have been destroyed.
Yeah.
Without shields and
it's
actively being blasted over and over again. Like, I don't know.
Didn't she have the ship back on at that point when she was running down
the ship on, but they had no shields. Like you have to regenerate that stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
And the fact that she could run down it proved that there's no shields because you can't pass through a shield. Like, it has to be turned
Actually,
off.
that's not true.
Oh,
So,
boy.
shielding only works on energy weapons. Anything that's actually physical can penetrate.
It's just usually you see like some sort of like dispersion when something hits the shield, like blaster bolts or something. Like, there's just some semblance of saying, "Oh, the shield is on."
Yeah.
I didn't see that, and I was like going, "That would be blown up." What?
Yeah. Yeah.
That
One
was the
blast,
whole
it would have tore the
point.
wing off.
That was the whole reason she went out into space, was to defend against it hitting the ship, and then it was constantly hitting the ship.
Yeah.
I don't know, it was, I think I'm just being a grumpy ass fucking douchebag.
It's hard not to, because we care about it so much. We know the potential.
Yeah.
And it's just disappointing.
Yeah, my favorite part was definitely the space fighting, and then like the dog fighting, and then also the Purgle. I just thought it was very, very cool. Everything else was kind of nonsensical to me. You could easily break apart every single thing that happened in this, and it was very, very short.
It was
like nothing happened. You could have tacked this on to the last episode and had it be the same length as the first episode.
Yep.
And no harm, no foul.
Damn straight, Chris. We complain because we care.
I don't know. I'm starting not to care. What was your least favorite?
The rest of it? No. Okay, so if I had to pinpoint one thing, it's got to be the scene with Hera talking to the senators. And the thing is, I understand why they're doing it. I do, but it's still just so fucking frustrating to see that the government acted that way for so long before it was destroyed. And it's like, that's not a successful anything. You're going to fail if you have that kind of attitude. And to see it just already like front and center at the very beginning, it's annoying.
It's so illogical. You're elected into office right after a major galactic civil war, and your motion is, we're not going to protect ourselves. What? No. Your job is to protect your fucking citizens. That means preventing war. That means spending money to prevent said fucking war. You're given evidence the war is coming, and you're ignoring it?
Yeah.
It's just...
By a general. This isn't just some random fucking person. Yeah. This is a high up...
This isn't Alex Jones.
Person. Yeah.
It's just talking about frogs being turned gay. This is a fucking general telling you about evidence.
Yeah. Ugh. Yeah, Chris, that shit was pretty funny. That was just a power move. That's all that was. Because they very easily could have been like, okay, cool, we're going to talk amongst ourselves and power out. No, they want to show that they have the bigger dick than Hera, which, spoiler, they don't. She's got a much bigger dick.
They pulled their hologram cock out and laid it on the table.
Yeah.
Get. She was like, okay. Oh, gosh, it's so funny. That's why Hera doesn't make sense to you. Wait, what? I need context for that. Is it because she agreed to have left, or I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, let us know in the comments. So, I mean, what are your hopes for the next episode?
That we can move on to the story.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Like, I don't need to see every episode of Ahsoka attempting to train Sabine to be something that she's not, which unfortunately she's probably going to be a great Jedi at the end of the series.
Yep.
Like, we don't need to see that. I want to see what the fuck's going on, like how they're going to find retrace the steps of the map to get to Thrawn.
Yeah. How much better would it be to have a buddy cop Mandalorian Jedi team? Like, they each have their own fighting styles, their own techniques, their own ways of dealing with the situation. That's more interesting to me than a Master Padawan situation.
100%. Because the thing is, that is devastating. We've seen that in Legends. You pair a fucking Mandalorian with a Jedi, and they will fucking destroy shit. Yeah. And the much cooler thing is, not a Jedi training a Mandalorian, because Mandalorians are fierce fucking warriors. But a Mandalorian training a goddamn Jedi like Jaina fucking Solo. She was a boss because of that. She didn't need to have the Force. Fuck, when she was getting trained by Mandalorians, there were Mandalorians there that had the Force and were very sensitive and were like, I don't use that shit. Fuck that. I'm a Mandalorian. That's the shit I want to see. That's the shit that we're missing.
Yeah. I mean, Ulic Qel-Droma in Dark Lords of the Sith literally beat the Mandalore and then used him as his own personal army. Mm-hmm. Like, they can be super badass side by side and still have their own identities.
Absolutely.
And still kick fucking major ass together. That's what I want. I just want...
All right, Chris. Yeah, I got you. And the thing is, though, before the war, she wasn't a general. She was, it was all a bunch of rebel factions. So it kind of makes sense that she would succumb to it, because we got to figure last time we saw her was pre A New Hope. This is post Return. So, I mean, that is a hot minute for her to kind of change and become a part of the government that didn't exist before this. So
yeah, it's a huge difference being a resistance fighter and then beholden to the actual military itself, like the industrial complex. I mean, this is a totally she could be literally hung if she goes against it now. Yeah. Whereas before, it just been like, oh, you're doing what you do.
Yeah.
So it's very different vibe. Anyway, all right. Well, my hopes for the future is that, again, like you, we get to the actual story. Let's start galaxy hopping and see some insane, crazy shit that I can't complain about because I don't know anything about it.
Yeah.
New galaxy, new rules. Let's do something cool. Yeah. So that's what I'm hoping for. I don't want to dislike this. I want to love it. I have some real problems with choices that are being made and the message that it's sending to the audience that is coming into Star Wars for the first time. It's like, oh, you're not special unless you're a Jedi. If you don't have any skills in being a Jedi, you can still learn it through time and practice.
Right. I will say one thing I am enjoying is the memes that I'm seeing, or the memes that I'm seeing. Yeah, because there's two sides of people watching Ahsoka. There's us. And then there's people that are like, this is great. You're stupid if you don't like it. And I've been seeing a lot of memes of, calling out certain aspects of the show. That's like, I watched Rebels. What the fuck is this? Like the whole Ezra calling Sabine his sister. That's everybody like, but you wanted to fuck her. What the fuck? Whatever. Yeah. That's one aspect. Like, I'm trying to find the silver linings of this show anywhere I can.
I wonder if there's any like toon porn of them getting it on.
I mean, that's a good place to end the show, right? We can look it up.
All right. Anything else?
No.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for tuning in, both live in chat and after the fact. We invite you to subscribe to this YouTube channel. Click that stupid bell and get notified about our next video. We do have a store for all your scruffy looking Nerf herder needs. We have apparel, t-shirts, mugs, all sorts of stuff that is really badass looking, and you'll look badass in it. Absolutely. We know you're a scruffy looking Nerf herder, so you might as well claim it with pride, right?
Exactly.
So until the Infernal Brotherhood convenes again, my fellow scruffy looking Nerf herders, may the Force be with you.
I can't see. How am I supposed to fight?
Like blind fighting is only a Jedi thing.
Yeah, it's stupid.
Just listen.